The Flash, Superman, Captain America. Household names for many of us, but for one man, the superheroes are like family. Here as part of the Singapore Writers' Festival, comic book writer Mark Waid, who has written such comics as The Flash and Kingdom Come, lets us in on some of his personal favourites and tells us why he won't be dressing up for Halloween. So who is your favourite comic book character?
Superman. Everybody else is a distant second. Superman's number one.
Why? Any reason?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because here's my favorite thing about Superman. And this was true even when I was a child. This is why I love Superman. Here's a guy who can do anything he wants. He could take anything he wants. He could steal anything he wants. He could win any war he wants. He could be forceful. He could be aggressive with his powers. And instead, he chooses to use these godlike powers to be selfless, to be better at, to make the world a better place. And that's the only thing he uses his powers for. He doesn't use them for personal gain. And I think that's an incredibly admirable power. It is naive of me to think that people would really be that way in real life, but in a fantasy figure, I like that as a lesson. It taught me something when I was a kid. It taught me about the notion that might does not make right.
Okay, and how about your favorite comic book title?
Oh, that's a good question. My favorite comic book title when I was a kid, and it's still my favorite comic book title, was a comic book called Dial H for Hero. You've never heard of this, have you? Of course not, child. And it was stopped being published long before you were even born. And it was the story of a boy who falls into a cave and finds this device, which looks like a telephone dial. You know what a telephone dial is?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you, okay. Cool. And it has different letters on it. When he dials H-E-R-O, he turns into a different superhero every time.
Right.
Unpredictably, no idea what the next hero is going to be. And there are all these wacky, weird heroes, but they all have these interesting powers, and then it wears off after a certain amount of time, and then he dials again. I love that. And I love that because, A, that's exactly what I looked like when I was a kid. Him at that age is exactly what I look like at that age. I look like the real-life counterpart to that character. Secondly, the ease of which... See, here's the thing about Batman. Batman's really cool. I love Batman. But think about how much time and energy Batman has to put into being Batman. Like, you don't just learn to be a criminologist overnight. You don't learn to be a martial artist overnight. This kid dials a dial and he's a superhero. That's my kind of guy, you know?
This is his first time in Singapore. Has the 1997 Comic Buyer's Guide winner for favorite writer checked out any of our comics? Have you read any comics from Singapore?
Not yet. I haven't. No one's put it into my hands. I want to see it. Yeah.
How about Asia? Asian comics?
Oh, in
manga?
general, yeah. I'm a big fan of. I've always been a big fan of manga stuff, even before it became a sensation in the States about 8 or 9 years ago. But I've been following that. The beauty of being an editor-in-chief of one company too is that we get submissions and samples from all over the world. So I'm thrilled by the fact that all through Europe, all through Asia, we're getting every day the mailman brings more samples of stuff to look at.
Right. And how is the Asian comic scene different from the American?
It's different in that the American comics tend to externalize conflict more. So it tends to be more about action. It tends to be more about less subtle nuances and more bombastic material. Whereas Asian comics tend to be a little more drawn out. They tend to be they linger in the moment more, and more importantly, they seem to be more ephemeral things like feelings and theme and internal sort of strife and then as opposed to comics, which are a lot of American comics with a lot of two guys punching each other. Yeah.
Mark is the editor-in-chief of the recently set up Boom Studios. Even if more people are getting their superhero fix online, he does not feel that comics are threatened by its availability on the internet. How are you going to attract the new readers? And understand that the new readers right now, right? They can read their comics online.
That's how you attract them. You don't keep publishing 22-page pamphlets. You don't keep or 32-page pamphlets. Cheap comics as they may be, they're no longer cheap anymore. We're very quickly pricing them out of existence. But that doesn't mean the genre goes away, or rather the medium. It doesn't mean the medium goes away. It just means that the delivery system has to change. And the fact that comics are now on the web, and more and so on the web. With Boom, we've actually been putting a lot more comics on the web, and we were some of the first to put them up with MySpace and with Facebook and so forth, being able to put up electronic copies of the comics the same day they came out on the stands. It didn't seem to hurt our sales on the publishing end at all. In fact, what it did was attract more attention to the properties themselves, and I'm fine with that. Look, the web is the ultimate democratization of art, and if we can use this to get more people paying attention to us, then that's great.
So, with Halloween coming up, are you going to be dressing up for it? And what?
That's a good question. Here's the thing. You know what? I am not a big fan of Halloween personally. I think it's great. I love the fact that it's an excuse for every woman I know to wear the skimpiest costume she can find. But here's the truth. A lot of the reason people dress up for Halloween is because it gives them a chance to sort of act out, to be a different person, to like live in for that evening in a sort of pretend different reality, right?
Right.
I don't have to do that because that's my job every day. Every day I get to do that. Right. And so the compulsion for me, or the attraction for me to do that one night a year is not as strong as it would be for other people because it's my full-time job.
And what a job it is to be creating superheroes and writing the stories of their adventures.